China is urbanizing at an unprecedented rate. If current trends continue, close to 1 billion Chinese will live in cities by 2030. Government plans to expand the urban population by at least 200 million in the next decade will transform millions of poor peasants into modern-day urbanites. Policymakers in Beijing expect mass rural to urban migration to stimulate domestic consumption as they attempt to rebalance a debt-laden economy. The stakes are high, and with China's demographic dividend behind it, the need to create millions of new urban consumers is a top priority. But in a growing sign that many ordinary Chinese feel left behind by the government's policies, Premier Li Keqiang recently called for a greater human focus to the country's urbanization drive. Leaving the farm and relocating to the city can mean access to higher paying jobs, but it can also mean a new life of hardship in unfamiliar surroundings.
这个年代就想教他识两个字，这是不能说在家没有学校，就家里也没有来源，就是种地是10年9旱，我那儿又是个山区，我一个村一共我数了数就10多个人了，就是像那走不了的、走不动的了，老的小的，人家能走的都走了，出外边打工。
Zheng Meilan looks after her 3 grandchildren in Beijing, while their parents work in other provinces. She scavenges for food in local markets and relies on handouts to get by. As rural migrants living in the capital, Mrs. Zheng's grandchildren are not entitled to free education. Instead, they rely on a local NGO for free tuition. Under China's hukou or household registration system, meant to discourage internal migration of families, millions of migrants living in urban areas have no access to services like healthcare and education.
因为它现在有一个最大的一个误区，就是说走城市化道路是把城市化建得越来越豪华，而不解决农村的贫穷跟落后，同时不解决我们刚才谈到的这个户籍制度，就是也不让有能力的人呢来到城市成为市民。那么实际上成为市民跟农民之间呢是有距离的。 就它这种城市化道路会把这种贫富的悬殊拉得越来越大，所以这个城市化道路，我认为是行不通的。
Few hours out of Beijing on a high-speed train lies the sprawling city of Zhengzhou in Hunan province. Known for its abject poverty during the rule of Mao, today Zhengzhou is held up as an example of how Beijing hopes to transform stretches of rural China into semi-urban, semi-industrial zones. But while construction steams ahead, many resettled communities are living in temporary housing.
像那个城市化发展了嘛，就是说给村庄扒了，都是建小区了。他太快实际这个问题，老百姓也明白，实际也支持。只要属于说该老百姓的，你给到老百姓手里，那这下边他工作他也好做。
These farmers say they were evicted from their land to make way for a new road. After several unsuccessful attempts to petition the government for compensation, they've been left to eke out a living on the edge of a newly built road. Adapting to a new life is not easy, and in this community of resettled peasants, many still farm small patches of land to make ends meet.
那当然是了，他搬到小区他没有地种了，当然他生活最起码都没有保障嘛。
If Beijing wants its urbanization plans to succeed, it will need to convince peasants like Mr. Wang that making the leap to urban life will bring with it economic security and not just more choices. Ben Marino, Financial Times, Beijing.